శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ 2008 లో స్థాపించిన కళాశాలలో MBA, NAC A గ్రేడ్ మరియు ISO సర్టిఫికేషన్ సాధించిన మొట్టమొదటి కళాశాల శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ త్వరలో అటానమస్ కాబోతోంది.
2014లో ISO గుర్తింపు, 2015లో రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వంచే A గ్రేడ్, 2016లో NAC A గ్రేడ్, ఇప్పుడు NBA సాధించిన సంస్థ శ్రీ ముత్తవరపు వెంకటేశ్వరరావు కాలేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ.
So in the last classes, we discussed about the introduction of radar, maximum unambiguous range, simple radar range equation, radar block diagram and operation, radar frequencies and applications, prediction of range performance, minimum detectable signal, receiver noise, radar equation, modified radar range equation, signal to noise ratio, probability of detection, probability of false alarm, and integration of radar pulses. So now we are going to see the remaining topics: radar cross-section of targets, simple targets like sphere, cone sphere, etc., creeping wave, transmitter power, PRF and range ambiguities, system losses, including qualitative treatment. Now we are going to see the radar cross-section of targets. What is meant by radar cross-section of targets? So it is the fictional area intercepting that amount of power which when scattered equally in all directions. So it is nothing but it is the fictional area intercepting that amount of power which when scattered equally in all directions produces an echo at the radar equal to that from the target. Or in other terms, we can define the radar cross-section of targets, that is denoted by sigma, is equal to power reflected towards source per unit solid angle by incident power density by 4 pi. So power reflected towards source per unit solid angle to the incident power density by 4 pi. So mathematically it is represented as limit r tends to infinity 4 pi r square into mod er by ei whole square, where capital R is nothing but the distance between radar and target, and er is equal to strength of reflected field. Er is strength of reflected field at radar. Er is strength of reflected field at radar, and whereas Ei is strength of incident field at target. So from most common types of radar targets such as aircraft, ships, etc., the radar cross section does not necessarily bear a simple relationship to the physical area, except that the larger the target size, the larger will be the cross section. As the larger the target size will be larger, then the cross section will also be larger. Next, coming to the scattering and diffraction. What is meant by scattering and diffraction? Both are almost all same, but definition is slightly differs. These are variations of the same physical process. So process is same, physical process is same, but variations are there in scattering and diffraction. See here, when an object scatters an electromagnetic wave, the scattered field is defined as the difference between the total field in the presence of the object and the field that would exist if the object were absent. So it is defined as the difference between the total field in the presence of the object and the field that would exist if the object were absent, but with the sources unchanged. Here the sources will not be changed. And on the other hand, the diffraction is defined as the diffraction field is the total field in the presence of the object. With radar backscatter, the two fields are the same, and one may talk about scattering and diffraction interchangeably. Okay, this is the slight modification of the scattering and diffraction. Next, coming to the radar cross section of a simple sphere. Radar cross section of a simple sphere. If you see the diagram of radar cross section of a simple sphere, this is the radar cross section of a simple sphere. See here, here we have here three regions appears here. Those are relay region, Mayer response region, or optical region. It consisting of three regions. So the radar cross section of a simple sphere consisting of three regions with A is radius, small a is the radius, and lambda is the wavelength. So 2 pi a by lambda is nothing but circumference per wavelength, and it is a sigma sphere by pi a square. Okay, so we will explain in detail these three regions. So what is the first region? It consisting of three regions. So relay region, optical region, and Maillard resonance region. This is the other name of resonance, Mai. So coming to the relay region, the relay region is defined as it is one where the size of the sphere is small compared with the wavelength. Rayleigh region. Okay, the region where the size of the sphere is small compared with the wavelength, that is 2 pi a by lambda is less than 1. It is small. The size of the sphere is small and compared with the wavelength, that is 2 pi a by lambda is less than 1, is called the Rayleigh region. The Rayleigh scattering region is of interest to the radar engineer because the cross sections of raindrops and other meteorological particles fall within the region at the usual radar frequencies. So basically here the size of the sphere is small when compared with the wavelength, that is 2 pi a by lambda is less than 1. That region is called Rayleigh region. Next, optical region. It is extreme. It is the region which appears at the extreme end. So it is the other extreme from the Rayleigh region where the dimensions of the sphere are large compared with the wavelength. That is nothing but 2 pi a by lambda is greater than 1. For large 2 pi a by lambda, the radar cross section approaches the optical cross section, that is pi a square. Next, coming to the Mai or resonance region. Mai, the other name of Mai is called resonance. Between the optical and Rayleigh region is the Mai or resonance region. The cross section is oscillatory with frequency within this region. Here it is the oscillatory region. The cross section is like oscillatory type. The maximum value is 5.6 dB greater than the optical value, while the value of the first null is 5.5 dB below the optical value. Okay, so this is uh, the cross section of simple sphere with radius a and lambda wavelength. Okay, these are the three regions uh, diagrammatically represented: Rayleigh region, optical region, and Mai or resonance region. Okay, since the sphere is a sphere, no matter from what aspect it is viewed, its cross section will not be aspect sensitive. The cross section of other objects, however, will depend upon the direction as viewed by the radar. Viewed by the radar, that is aspect angle. Next, coming to the radar cross section of a cone sphere. Up to now, we will discuss about the radar cross section of a simple sphere, but this is the radar cross section of a cone sphere with the 15 degrees half angle as a function of the diameter in wavelengths. 15 degrees half angle as a function of a diameter in wavelength. So here, this is drawn between radar cross section versus diameter. Diameter is measured in wavelengths. So diameter or wavelengths. So it is like this. It is like this. So it will be explained as see here. So radar cross section of a cone sphere. An intersecting radar scattering object is the cone sphere. What is meant by cone sphere? It is uh, it is an interesting radar scattering object. Interesting radar scattering object is the cone sphere, a cone whose base is capped with a sphere such that the first derivatives of the contours of the cone and the sphere are equal at the joint. So, what is the difference between cone and sphere and cone sphere? A cone whose base is capped with a sphere, that is cone sphere. A cone whose base is capped with a sphere, such that the first derivatives of the contours of the cone and the sphere are equal at the joint. Okay, So it is the plot as we already seen in that diagram, the below diagram, a plot of the nose on radar cross section. The cross section of the cone sphere from the vicinity of the nose on direction is quite low. Scattering from any object occurs from discontinuities. So if you scatter a light can be scattered from any object occurs from discontinuities. The discontinuities and hence the backscattering of the cone sphere are from the tip end from the joint between the cone and the sphere. The nose on radar cross section is small and decreases as the sphere of the wavelength. So the cross section is small over a relatively large angular region. A large specular Specular means having qualities of a mirror. A large specular return is obtained when the cone sphere is viewed at near perpendicular incidence to the cone surface. That is, when theta equal to 90 minus alpha degrees, where alpha is nothing but cone half angle. Alpha is called cone half angle. From the rear half of the cone sphere, the radar cross section is approximately that of the sphere. The nose on cross section of the cone sphere varies, but its maximum value is approximately zero point 0.4 lambda square and its minimum is 0.01 lambda square for a wide range of half angles for frequencies above the Rayleigh region. The null spacing is also relatively insensitive to the cone half angle. What is cone half angle? Alpha is the cone half angle. Okay. See the diagram. So here sigma equal to zero point 0.4 lambda square and here sigma is 0.01 lambda square. So this is the radar cross section of a cone sphere with 15 degrees half angle. Alpha is 15 degrees here. 15 degrees half angle as a function of the diameter in wavelengths. In order to realize in practice the very low theoretical values of the radar cross section for a cone sphere, the tip of the cone must be sharp and not rounded. The surface must be smooth. Okay, in order to realize the practice, the very low theoretical values of the radar cross sections here is the tip of the cone must be sharp and it will not be rounded and the surface must be smooth. The joint between the cone and the sphere must have a continuous first derivative and there must be no holes, windows or protuberances on the surface. So here the joint between the cone and the sphere must have a continuous first derivative and there must be no holes and windows on the surface. Next, shaping of the target, as with the cone sphere, is a good method for reducing the radar cross section. The shaping of the target with cone sphere is a good method of reducing the radar cross section. So materials such as carbon fiber composites, which are sometimes used in aerospace applications, can further reduce the radar cross section of targets as compared with that produced by highly reflecting metallic materials. So cross section will be reduced by using the cone sphere. Here the shaping of the target as with the cone sphere is a good method for reducing the radar cross section. So carbon fiber composites which are also used in aerospace applications, which are also used to reduce the radar cross section of targets. Next, coming to the transmitting power or a transmitter power. What is meant by transmitter power? Transmitter power. So here we will see the first of all we will see the peak power, after that average radar power PAV and duty cycle etc. So what is meant by peak power? We will discuss about the peak power first. After that we will see the transmitter power. The power PT in the radar equation is called the peak power. PT is peak power. PT in the radar equation already we discussed about the radar equation earlier in the earlier classes. So PT represents the peak power. This is not the instantaneous peak power of a sine wave. It is the power averaged over that carrier frequency cycle which occurs at the maximum power of the pulse. This is not the instantaneous peak power of the sine wave. It is the power averaged, P averaged over the carrier frequency cycle. Okay, so the average radar power P average is defined as the average transmitter power over the pulse repetition period. It is the average transmitter power over the pulse repetition period. If the transmitted waveform is a train of rectangular pulses of width lambda and the pulse repetition period Tp equal to 1 by Fp, then the average power is related to the peak power by P average equal to Pt into lambda by Tp, or we can write this as Pt into tau into Fp, where 1 by Tp is Fp. So the average power is related with the peak power as P average equal to Pt by, what is Pt here? Pt is peak power. What is Tp? Tp is nothing but pulse repetition period. What is tau? Tau is nothing but pulse width. So it can be defined as Pt into lambda by Tp, or Pt into tau into Fp. Pt into tau into Fp. What is meant by duty cycle? The ratio P average by Pt, P average by peak power, or tau by Tp, or tau into Fp is called the duty cycle of the radar. So here tau by Tp, or P average by Pt. So from this expression we can write P average by Pt is equal to tau by tau by Tp, or tau into Fp. So this is called either P average by Pt or tau by Tp or tau into Fp. Either of the one is called duty cycle of the radar. The pulse radar for detection of aircraft might have typically a duty cycle of 0.001, while a continuous wave radar which transmits continuously has a duty cycle of unity. So the radar for detection of a aircraft might have a duty cycle of 0.001, whereas continuous wave radar which transmits continuously has a duty cycle of unity. Writing the radar equation, now we write the radar equation in terms of the average power rather than the peak power. We get R max to the power 4 is equal to, so replace Pt by Pav into Tp by tau, Pav into Tp by tau, or Pt is equal to Pav by tau Fp. So replace Pt is equal to Pav by tau Fp, or Pav into Tp by tau. We can write this radar equation as R max to the power 4 is equal to Pav into G into A into sigma n Ei of n by 4 pi whole square into Kt naught into Fn into Bn tau into signal to noise ratio into Fp. The bandwidth and the pulse width are grouped together since the product of the two is usually of the order of unity in most pulse radar applications. The bandwidth and the pulse width, here the pulse width is tau, are grouped together since the product of the two is usually of the order of unity in most pulse radar applications. Next, pulse repetition of frequencies and range ambiguities. Pulse repetitive frequencies and range ambiguities. So what are pulse repetitive frequencies? So see the diagram. Here one pulse is there, another from here to here, one cycle, and it is repeated from here to here, and again it is repeating like this. So at t equal to 0, pulse starts at t equal 0 at here. Next it will start at the next pulse, that is t equal to 1 by Tp, that is first pulse, and again it starts at here, that is second pulse, t equal to 2 by Tp. Again it starts at here, that is t equal to 3 by Tp. So you will see the pulse repetitive frequencies, how these will form, these pulses will form. We will see the pulse repetition frequency, that is PRF, is determined primarily by the maximum range at which targets are expected. So at here target will be expected. At here another target will expect. At here another target will expect. So PRF is pulse repetition frequency is determined basically by the maximum range at which targets are expected. If the PRF is made too high, the likelihood of obtaining target echoes from the wrong pulse transmission is increased. Echo signals received after an interval exceeding the pulse repetition period are called multiple time around echoes. Multiple time around echoes. What is multiple time around echoes? So each signals received after an interval exceeding the pulse repetition interval. This is called multiple time around echoes. Consider the three targets labeled as A, B, and C in the figure. So here A, B, and C, these three are the targets, three targets. The target A is located within the maximum unambiguous range, that is R unambiguous is equal to C into dp by 2. It was already explained in our earlier classes. Okay, target A is located here. A is located within the maximum unambiguous range, that is R unambiguous is equal to C into TP by 2 of the radar, and target B is at a distance greater than unambiguous but less than 2R unambiguous. Okay, so it is greater than unambiguous, B is greater than R unambiguous but less than 2R unambiguous, and the target C is greater than 2R unambiguous, but it is less than 3R unambiguous. Okay, see here we have three targets are there, A, B, and C. The range of A is located within the maximum unambiguous range. Okay, that is R unambiguous, and B is located after the R, which is greater than R unambiguous and less than 2R unambiguous. Similarly, the target C is located greater than 2R unambiguous and less than 3R unambiguous. Okay, so the appearance of the three targets on an A scope is shown in the figure. This is the appearance of the three targets. Okay. The multiple time around the echoes on the A scope cannot be distinguished from proper target echoes actually within the maximum unambiguous range. Only the range measured for target A is correct, those for B and C are not. So here the range measured for target A is what is the range measured for target A? That is R unambiguous is equal to C into TP by 2. Each, this is only correct. Those for B and C are not correct. One method of distinguishing multiple time around echoes from unambiguous echoes is to operate with a varying pulse repetition frequency. So this is one method of distinguishing the multiple time around echoes from unambiguous echoes is to operate with a very varying pulse repetition frequency. The echo signal from an unambiguous range target will appear at the same place on the A scope on each sweep, no matter whether the pulse repetition frequency is modulated or not. The echo signal from an unambiguous range target will appear at the same place on the A scope on each sweep, no matter whether the pulse repetition frequency is modulated or not. However, echoes from multiple time around targets will be spread over a finite range as shown in the figure C. So these are spreaded like this, spread over a finite range. So this is this will appear like this in figure C. Okay. So the multiple time around targets will be spread over a finite range. So the number of separate pulse repetition frequencies will depend upon the degree of the multiple time around targets. Here the number of separate pulse repetition frequencies, that is PRF, will depend upon the degree of the multiple time around targets. Second time targets need only two separate repetition frequencies in order to be reserved. The second time targets need only two separate repetition frequency in order to be resolved. So this is the PRF with the three targets, pulse repetition frequencies. So here the range of A is located within the maximum unambiguous range, that is R unambiguous is equal to C into TP by 2, and the range of B is located with greater than R unambiguous range and less than 2R unambiguous range, and the target C is located in between the greater than 2 unambiguous range and less than 3 unambiguous range. Okay, so this was shown like this, and this is the diagram shows the multiple time around echoes that give rise to ambiguities in range. The first figure demonstrates the three targets A, B, and C, where A is within R unambiguous and B and C are multiple time around targets. And B, the diagram B exhibits the appearance of the three targets on the A scope. This is called A scope, the appearance of three targets in a single scope, that is called A scope. And C, diagram C represents the appearance of the three targets on the A scope with a changing PRF, pulse repetition frequencies, pulse repetition frequencies. So there is a overlapping of these three targets will appear here in the diagram C. Next, coming to the system losses. What are the system losses? What are the plumbing losses? What are the connector losses? What are the duplexer losses? We will discuss about all beam strip losses. Like this, we have several losses, scanning losses, etc. So we will discuss about these losses. So these are all system losses. See, initially we are going to discuss about the plumbing loss. So what is meant by system loss? How the system loss will appear? The losses in a radar system reduce the signal to noise ratio at the receiver output. They are two kinds. The losses in a radar system reduces the system signal to SNR ratio at the receiver output. So because of this system losses, so the signal to noise ratio will be reduced at the output. So there are two kinds: predictable with a certain precision beforehand and unpredictable. Predictable with certain precision beforehand and unpredictable. Simply predictable and unpredictable. The antenna beam shape loss, collapsing loss, and losses in the microwave plumbing are examples of losses which are predictable if the system configuration is known. These losses are real and cannot be ignored. So what are the predictable losses here? Predictable losses are antenna beam shape loss, collapsing loss, and losses in the microwave plumbing. These are the predictable losses. So these are real losses and cannot be ignored. Coming to the unpredictable losses. The losses not readily subject to calculation and which are less predictable include those due to field degradation and to operator fatigue or lack of operator motivation. They are subject to considerable variation and uncertainty. Okay, losses in readily subject to calculation and which are less predictable. Here, if you take the predictable losses, these are real losses and we cannot be ignored. So unpredictable losses can be ignored. So these are subjected to the calculation and less predictable include those due to field degradation and the lack of operator motivation. This is the difference between predictable and unpredictable losses. Predictable losses are real losses. We can't ignore these losses. But unpredictable losses, we can ignore these unpredictable losses. We can, this is subjected to the calculation and which are less predictable. Okay, due to the field degradation and the lack of operator motivation. Next, coming to the plumbing losses. What is meant by plumbing loss? Plumbing loss is loss in the transmission lines which connects the transmitter output to the antenna. It is the loss in the it will appear in the transmission of the transmission. It will appear in the transmission lines which connects the transmitter output to the receiver. Transmitter output is connected to the receiver to the through the transmission lines. Okay, this in these transmission lines, plumbing losses will occur. Cables and waveguides. So transmission lines are generally made by cables and waveguides. So during the transmission period, these loss will occurs. At the lower radar frequencies, the transmission line introduces little loss unless its length is exceptionally long. If the length of the transmission line is long, then automatically loss will occur. Okay, at higher radar frequencies, loss or attenuation will not be small and has to be taken into account. So at lower radar frequencies only it will occur. At higher radar frequencies, the loss will not be small and has to be taken into account. Okay. Next, connector losses. What are meant by connector losses which will occur at the connections? Connector loss. In addition to the losses in the transmission lines itself, additional losses occurs at each connection or each connection are bend in the line and at the antenna rotary joint if used. So at the joints that are at the antenna rotary joints, it will occur. Connector losses will occur mainly at the connections, mainly at the connections. So additional losses occurs at each connection or bend in the line bends and at the antenna rotary joint. Okay, connector losses are usually small. These are very small. But if the connection is poorly made, if we made the connection very poor, then automatically it occurs. It can contribute significant attenuation. If the same transmission line is used for both receiving and transmission, the loss to be inserted in the radar equation is twice the one-way loss. So, if the same transmission line is used for both receiving and transmission, connector losses will occur. So, next one is duplexer loss. Duplexer loss. What is meant by duplexer loss? Duplexer loss. The signal suffers attenuation as it passes through the duplexer. So it is the signal duplexer loss will occur if the signal suffers attenuation as it passes through the duplexer. Generally, the greater the isolation required from the duplexer on transmission, the larger will be the insertion loss. Insertion loss. The greater the isolation required from the duplexer on transmission, the larger will be the insertion loss. Insertion loss means the loss introduced when the component is inserted into the transmission line. Inserted loss is nothing but it is inserted into the loss occurs when it is inserted into the transmission line. For a typical duplexer, it might be of the order of 1 dB. It is the typical duplexer. The loss will be 1 dB. In S band, that is S band means 300 megahertz range frequency band. In S band radar, for example, the typical plumbing losses will be as follows: 100 feet of RG133 by UA1 waveguide transmission line, two-way transmission line. Here the duplexer loss will be 1 dB. Loss due to poor connection is 0.5 dB. Rotary joint loss is 0.4 dB. Duplexer loss is 1.5 dB. Total plumbing loss is 3.4 dB. Total plumbing loss is 3.4. Individual losses are like this: 100 feet transmission line, two-way transmission line loss is 1 dB, and loss due to poor connection is 0.5 dB. The rotary joint loss is 0.4 dB, and the duplexer loss is 1.5. But by adding all these losses, the total plumbing loss is 3.4 dB. So this is about the duplexer loss. Next one is beam shape loss. Beam shape loss. What is meant by beam shape loss? Beam shape loss is the antenna gain that appears in the radar equation was assumed to be a constant equal to the maximum value. Beam shape loss is the antenna gain. It is nothing but the antenna gain that appears in the radar equation was assumed to be a constant equal to the maximum value. But in reality, the train of pulses returned from the target with the scanning radar is modulated in amplitude by the shape of the antenna beam. But generally, we can say that beam shape loss is nothing but antenna gain. It is the antenna gain that appears in the radar equation, which was assumed to be a constant, which is equal to the maximum value. It is antenna gain that is a maximum value in generally. But in reality, the train of pulses returned from a target with a scanning radar is modulated in amplitude by the shape of the antenna beam. To properly take into account the pulse train modulation caused by the beam shape, the computations of the probability of detection the computations of the probability of detection would have to be performed assuming a modulated train of pulses rather than constant amplitude pulses. But since this computation is difficult, a beam shape loss is added to the radar equation and a maximum gain is employed in the radar equation rather than a gain that changes pulse to pulse. So this is about the beam shape loss. Beam shape loss. So beam shape loss is nothing but a maximum value of the antenna gain. But in uh, reality, it deals with the it is related to antenna beam. Antenna beam. So here the a beam shape loss is added to the radar equation and a maximum gain is employed in the radar equation rather than a gain that changes pulse to pulse. So in reality, it is related to antenna beam. Next, coming to the scanning losses. Scanning losses. What are scanning losses? When the antenna scans rapidly enough, when the antenna scans rapidly enough, the gain on transmit is not the same as the gain on receive. When the antenna scan is rapidly enough, the gain on transmit is not same as the gain on receive. An additional loss has to be computed called the scanning loss. It is the additional loss, so that is called scanning loss. The technique for computing scanning loss is similar in principle to that for computing beam shape loss. It is the technique for computing scanning loss is similar in principle to that for computing beam shape loss. Scanning loss is important for rapid scan antennas or for very long range radars such as those designed to view extraterrestrial objects. So these are designed, these scanning losses, and the scanning loss is important for rapid scan antennas. It is very important for rapid scan antennas for very long range radars, such as designed to view extraterrestrial objects. Next, collapsing loss. What is meant by collapsing loss? If the radar were to integrate additional light noise samples along with the wanted signal to noise pulses, the, the added noise results in degradation called the collapsing loss. Collapsing means degradation. So signal to noise pulses. So with unwanted signal to noise pulses, the added noise results the degradation. It is called collapsing losses. So non-ideal equipment, non-ideal equipment. So non-ideal equipment. So we'll discuss these things in the next class. Okay, with this up to this field degradation. receiver noise up to this noise, what we call as collapsing noise, we will stop the session, and in the next class we will discuss the remaining things.